looking forward to not so much March 10th, the day that Ben Simmons is supposed to come back to the Wells Fargo Center and play in front of Philadelphia. I'm not just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the great anticipation. Like, it's not even just right now. It's when we get closer to that date, whether or not Ben Simmons will actually play in that game. And I was having this conversation, as I mentioned the other day, I was having this conversation with some people about Ben Simmons and whether or not he will play in that game. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what, if I had mental health issues, the last thing I'm doing is going to the place where those mental health issues really, the mental health flourished. They just took over. I'm not going back to that place. I liken it to a surfer getting bit by a shark. You're not jumping back in the water the next day. Like, that's not happening. Like, give me a minute. Let me wrap my head around it, and then I'll go. Ben Simmons playing that early and that fragile, maybe, after mental health issues, as he called it, I don't think happens. Danny Green's podcast that he does with his friend Harrison, he got asked point blank about Ben Simmons coming back to Philadelphia and Ben Simmons playing in that game. And I will say this, Harrison asks a very long question and sets it up interestingly. And Danny Green, I want you to listen to this first thing. I got two cuts from this show. And Danny Green's little, you'll hear it, Danny Green's little, Harrison asked a question about Ben Simmons returning March 10th. And you hear Danny Green, before he says anything, and Harrison's still asking the question, Danny Green's like, I'm playing March 10th. like, yeah, that's going to happen. Tell me if you hear that. And then also we'll dissect the rest of it. Here is Danny Green on his Green Room podcast.
On March 10th, he can potentially return to Wells Fargo Center as a member of the Brooklyn Nets, and he could play against you. Mm-hmm. When the game is over, are you shaking hands?
First, let's break that down. Interesting dynamic of how things went down. Interesting dynamic of who went with him. I don't know. I haven't got a chance to talk to those guys yet, but I know they weren't on the most of cordial terms when he was in Philly with Drum and Seth. So I wonder how that relationship is now. I got a chance to talk to them. Now, will we shake hands to start? Probably not. First, I'd be highly surprised if he even plays in that game. I don't know where his health is mentally, physically. I know he had other issues, and we all know that he does not like to play in Philly. So if he does play in that game, I'd be highly surprised.
We all know he doesn't like to play in Philly. Yeah, okay. We know what's going to be more clear. Because there's a lot to unpack, as Danny Green even says right there. There's a lot to unpack. Danny Green was the guy that told you in Philadelphia, folks, you got to be kinder to Ben. You got to root for Ben. You got to be nicer to Ben. Be good to Ben. And this was at the end of last year that he said that. We were really nice to Ben. We were great to Ben. We cheered a 3 in an exhibition game against the Guangzhou Long Lions. We were phenomenal to Ben. The vast majority of people in Philadelphia, good to Ben Simmons. Occasional boos? Yeah, occasional boos. But everybody gets that. Everybody gets that. It's becoming more clear as to why Danny Green felt like he needed to stick up for Ben Simmons, because he probably thought it was the only way that Ben Simmons was going to come back. And the way they phrased the question in this show is he basically chose not to be your teammate all year. Chose not to be your teammate all year. They didn't bring up mental health issues. I think Danny Green might have just gave it a smattering of it, but they really didn't get into it. Bottom line is he doesn't want to play in Philadelphia. Bottom line is he doesn't like to play in Philadelphia. From Danny Green's lips to our ears, that's just the way it broke down with Ben Simmons. And to say that the guys that he got traded with, he wasn't cordial with? What? I mean, Andre Drummond wasn't here last year when Ben Simmons was actually playing for the Sixers. Seth Curry was obviously here. He wasn't cordial with Seth Curry? What? I mean, here, we did see almost immediately, and I joked about it, Ben Simmons sitting on the bench in Brooklyn with Andre Drummond, and those two laughing it up a little bit. And I had said, oh, hey, Ben Simmons probably said to Andre Drummond, hey, thanks for having me on your team. This is great. I'm looking forward to playing with you guys. And Andre Drummond was probably like, dude, I was with you in Philly too, but you weren't there. Oh, that's probably what they were chopping it up and laughing about. But I find it interesting that Danny Green went out of his way to say that he didn't get along more or less with the guys that were traded with him to Brooklyn. Okay, interesting. Ben was also seen yesterday. I know some people were making some comments about this video here of him shooting around a little bit with Kyle Korver as a shooting coach for the Brooklyn Nets. So Ben Simmons is working on his foul shot, which, hey, good for him. The one thing I will say about this is what I've always said. If Ben Simmons becomes a 75% free throw shooter and a consistent mid-range jump shot, if he does those things, okay, fine. It wasn't going to happen here. Zero regret for how the Sixers handled the situation. 100% more anger directed at Ben Simmons for not doing that here. It wasn't going to happen here. He made the decision it wasn't going to happen here. So what am I going to do? Get all angry about it? No, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, you know what? You would actually prove me right if you improved on those things and actually turned yourself into an MVP candidate. But after this whole ordeal, I don't really see it happening. Just as I really didn't see it was happening here in Philadelphia. I was hopeful. Oh, maybe this will be what Ben needs, this utter fail, this epic fail in the postseason. Maybe this is what he needs to get that kick in the ass to come back better. I wasn't betting on it, but I was certainly rooting for it. And that could still happen in Brooklyn. I just highly doubt it.